Welcome to another episode of the DL. I am your host, Tyler Robertson, the CEO and founder of Diesel Laptops. And today, we are talking about the future. And let's face it, everyone listening to this, you're in the trucking industry, the repair industry. We got electrification, we got hydrogen-powered trucks, we have robots driving trucks. The world is starting to get a little more crazy. Technology's creeping into this old space with old technology is finding its way into the transportation and trucking space. So a couple years ago, I was at Heavy Duty Aftermarket Week, and I got the opportunity to listen to a keynote speaker. And the gentleman introduced to you here is considered one of the world's leading future speakers on global trends and disruptive innovation. And when I first heard him, I thought it was interesting. I read his books, I thought about more, I've learned more since then. I'll talk a little bit about why this is important for you. But I can tell you here that Mr. Daniel Burrus, he is a strategic advisor to executives from Fortune 500 companies. He helps them come up with new strategies, ways to deal with the changes coming. He's the author of 7 books. He's been a Wall Street Journal bestseller. He has a New York Times bestseller. His latest book is The Anticipatory Organization. I've listened to it twice on Audible. Great book, by the way, sir. So more than anything else, just welcome to the show. And I know you're a busy guy, so I really appreciate you taking some time to come hang out with me today.
Well, I really appreciate you having me on because, as you said, the good old days are actually ahead of us, but they don't look like the good old days that were behind us. So talking about what is ahead of us and how can we make it better for ourselves, I love that subject. Thank you for having me on.
Well, it's a subject I'm passionate about because I keep telling our clients, look, if you guys are worried about doing brake jobs and clutches and these old things that in oil changes, the world's changing and you guys got to adapt if you want your business to succeed. So let's just talk about this. I use the word futurist there, and I think people sometimes hear that word. They're not sure what it means. Can you kind of define that and explain a little bit more about what you do?
Yeah, well, in some ways, one of the things that we're doing on this program is I want everybody to start thinking a little bit more about the future. That is where you're going to spend the rest of your life. Maybe you ought to think about it. And again, and it's changing, and you want to be able to see those changes before they change, which is what we'll talk about a little bit more in the interview. But for a futurist, in a way, we're all futurists because you could say, well, we're going to put the next man on the moon by the United States within 6 months. Now, what are you being? Well, you're making a prediction. You're being a futurist. If you want to be a professional futurist, you got to be right, at least every now and then. And again, with my 7 books and literally thousands of articles over the decades, I've established myself as a leader in being right about where things are going. By the way, how do I do that? I leave out the parts I can be wrong about. But the key is how much you can be right about. And let me just say, I want to teach in this little bit of time we have together, you how to be more right about the future.
Well, let's talk about that. So in your book, The Anticipatory Organization, you talk a lot about hard trends and soft trends. Can you explain that a little bit for the audience here?
Absolutely. Well, the reason we don't spend a lot of time looking at trends is because some happen and some don't. So it's like going to, Las Vegas. But in reality, if this is based on 38 years of research, all trends fit into one of 2 categories. And when you take any trend and you put it into one of these 2 categories, it starts getting more powerful. One of them is hard trends, and hard trends are based on what I call future facts. They will happen. You can't stop them. The good news is you can see disruption before it disrupts, giving you the choice to either let it happen and be disrupted or become a positive disruptor, creating the transformations that will elevate your relevancy and accelerate your growth. Or you can just kind of let it happen and then react to it later. That's why I didn't call this the crisis organization. I call it the anticipatory organization because I want you to learn how to anticipate rather than just put out fires and react. So hard trends based on future facts that lets you see problems before you have them so you can pre-solve them. I mean, how many times have we said, I knew that would happen? And I would say, so why did you let it? So it's seeing problems before they happen, disruptions before they disrupt. Soft trends are based on assumptions that may or may not happen, meaning they got more risk to them because strategy based on the certainty of hard trends has low risk. Strategy based on the uncertainty of soft trends has higher risk. So do I like soft trends? Yeah, I love them. I love hard trends. I love them both. The reason I love soft trends, if you don't like them, you can change them because they are not a future fact. And the reason I love a hard trend is, again, I can have a strategy that relates to it. So two things I just taught everyone I want to make real clear. One, whenever you're talking about a trend from now on, is it a future fact that can't be changed? Is it a hard trend? Or is it a soft trend? You don't like it, you can change it. And the second thing I just said is a trend by itself is frankly academic. Who cares? I'm bored, you are too. Until you attach an opportunity for you into it. So if you've got a soft trend and you're talking, oh, that's soft, that could be changed. All right. What is the strategy to change it to your advantage? Now it bursts into actionable light. If it's a hard trend and you can see, oh, I can see that's going to disrupt us. What can you do to profit from something you know is going to happen anyway? Actually, not doing something is now more risky than doing something. So those are two key elements to hard and soft trends. I can give you examples. I'll let you lead. You drive the truck right now.
That was my next question. Like, can you give us a soft trend example and a hard trend example just to paint that picture clearer for the audience?
Absolutely. Let me give you a couple of soft trend example. First of all, something we've all experienced: the increasing cost of healthcare in the United States. That's been going up for actually a couple of decades. And when something is going up like that, it's called a trend. Now, if you think it is a hard trend, unstoppable, nothing we can do about it, it's just going to get more expensive, then all of our strategies and legislation is about how do we pay for the mess as it gets worse. But if you realize it's actually a soft trend, if you don't like it, you can change it. And there are tools we could use to dramatically lower the cost of healthcare, or we could just let it get more expensive. You see, I want us to see if it's a soft trend, you don't like it, you can change it. That's just one quick example. Hard trends, there are three categories very quickly. One is demographics. In this country, we got 78 million baby boomers. They're not going to chronologically get younger. They're going to continue to retire. And let me give you now I'm going to teach everybody a little bit of a fine tuning here. I'm going to make a statement, a trend statement, and I'm going to teach you how to flush out hard and soft. This is what I would call a complex trend. And that is, many people will be retiring in your organization over the next couple of years. And when they leave, they're going to take their knowledge and wisdom with them. Now, if you listen to what I said, there was the word and in there, which I have my antenna up. When I hear an and in a trend statement, I know there's probably a mix of hard and soft. So you've got a lot of baby boomers that are going to be retiring over the next couple of years. By the way, hard trend, that's going to happen. Soft trend, they're going to take their knowledge and wisdom with them. Well, you could do something about that. You could start a mentoring program. You got a database, you have a knowledge base, you have a wisdom base. So you see, again, by looking at whether it's hard or soft, you have some examples. So demographics is one. And by the way, that's not just about baby boomers, it's about the new employees and why would they want to work for you? And how do you attract them? How do you find them? By the way, it's not in the old places, it's in some new places. That's where they are. You should be looking there. And there's a way to make sure that your organization, your company, regardless of what you're doing in this industry that we're in, is creating the future rather than protecting the past, which would be more exciting for a young person to get in. We can come back on that. So demographics is one. Number two, this will freak everyone out, regulation, government regulation. You'd say, I hate regulation. And I would say, get over it. So here's what I'd like you to do. And instead of, when you hear about a new regulation, you think of all the things you don't like about it. But in my books and in my learning systems, I teach executives that the opposites work better. So instead of starting with what you don't like about the regulation, start with what you do like and look for money. Elon Musk, pretty smart guy, every business he started actually was funded by government regulation. And you're saying, I don't think that's available for me. That's why you haven't looked. You'd be amazed at what's right there for you. You could make a lot more money than you're probably making now if you really mind regulations around this industry. I know your industry. I'm not kidding. This is huge. All right. And by the way, let me give you an example of a predictable regulation, because you might say, well, they surely can't predict regulation. I mean, look at how divided our politics are. And I would say, well, let me ask you, are we going to get more regulation on cybersecurity? And the answer is, well, yeah. Why? Because there's some hard trends at play that a government can't ignore. Then there's some other things we could debate, which gets bogged down. So regulation, look for opportunities. And demographics, look for those opportunities. The third one, technology. and that's changing our world on us. So it's amazing how unbelievably predictable it is when you start looking at, for example, we went from 4G wireless, and now we're getting 5G wireless. Is that it? No, you can even predict what they'll call the next one, 6G followed by 7. I'm actually working with a company that's putting 6G together right now. And by the way, you think 5G is going to be good? Whoa, 6G. Now, are we putting a lot in the cloud? Is the cloud getting full? No, we're going to put more in the cloud because it's economical to do that. And it allows you to have AI, data analytics, and all these tools that you could never possibly afford in this industry. But you can, because you can get them in a virtualized way and pay for the use of them, giving you amazing opportunities. So 3 hard trend drivers that are changing our world. And you already talked about some of the technology-based hard trends when you teed this up.
Yeah, so you hit a lot of great points there. And just to put an exclamation point on a couple of those, Diesel Laptops, my company, gets federal money for R&D research to create new things, right? So there is a lot of government funding that goes on to create these things. And I think right along those lines, one of the things you talked about in a blog I read of yours was the Great Resignation. And you were like, all of a sudden the media is making a big deal about it. And you're like, not so fast. This has been going on for a while. Like, this is just now COVID probably sped it up in that regard. So have you seen these like out of the blue things? And maybe they're not out of the blue, right? Like the COVID.
No, they're not really out of the blue so much. For example, this is based on the latest research just coming out, did a massive study. And what they were doing is, why are people leaving? Well, one of the first things is, here's the insight. People don't leave their employer. They leave their boss. Now, let's let that sink in a second. They don't like what's happening with that manager because that manager doesn't know, or maybe hasn't been trained on how to really pull the best out of their people, how to really manage people. Maybe they know how to manage technology or manage repairs or manage something else. But so people are leaving the manager or the boss. They're not leaving the company. So that means I want to make sure I got some good executive training and management training going in here so that we aren't losing our people from that. Secondly, there's the word future view. And I've been teaching this for almost 40 years now. How you and I, how your kids, how your customers view the future, to a great extent will shape how they act in the present. And by the way, how they act in the present will shape their future. Your future view will determine the future you. And so right now you might have some employees that are thinking of leaving. Why? Their future view of staying has changed. You might have some customers right now that are thinking of leaving you and going to somebody else. Why? Their future view of working for you has changed. So what I'm saying is you need to start managing the future view of your employees and help them to see that the good old days of your company are not behind you, because if they are, hey, I'd be out of your place too. But if you can say, instead of protecting and defending the past, we need young people, we need new people, we need all of you at any age engaged in helping us to create a thriving business going forward, even better than we've had in the past. And you know what? That could get exciting for anybody.
So, like I said at the top of this, I heard you speak, I listened to your books, and it was starting to slowly absorb in, but it really hit home with me a couple months ago. I'm in my boardroom, and I got some executives there from a very large company, tens of billions of dollars in revenue. And they recently made an acquisition I didn't understand. I'm like, man, that seems like so left field. Why did you guys do that? And he's like, okay, Tyler, let me explain something to you. We have an entire division of our company, and these people sit there and they just think and plan and look at trends and do all these things. What direction is the world going? Where are things going? And when you can look at things through a 5-year, 10-year, 20-year lens, making decisions today gets much easier when you know where you're pretty comfortable things are going to be at the end of the day. So they're a big company doing this. Can small organizations, can they do this? Should they be thinking along these lines as well?
Absolutely. You've got advantages over a big organization. You don't have a big ship to turn. You've got a smaller ship to turn. So if you're an Exxon Mobil, you got a giant ship to turn. Holy cow. But, or whatever, you know what I'm talking about. So you've got to take advantage of your size. You can be more agile, and agility, by the way, is about reacting quickly after a disruption disrupts, after a problem occurs. And I want you to be agile, but what I'm teaching you in this and in my books is how to be anticipatory. So instead of just being reactionary, playing defense, I want to be anticipatory playing offense. And by the way, many of us like to watch football. The last 20 Super Bowls, if you look at, was it a team that was best at offense or defense? The majority of winners of Super Bowls, it was not defense. They were best at offense. They were anticipatory. They were like Wayne Gretzky. I skate to where the puck is going. So you need to know where the puck is going in this business.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the other thing too here is how does, and maybe the part for me is always, how do you decipher a soft trend from what I believe is going to, my belief, right? Is there data you look at, or how do you distinguish between those two things?
Well, let me give you, again, I've got much more of this on my website that you can go to and find out more. I write blogs. Yeah, it doesn't cost you anything, and so on. I've got a couple of million readers monthly on that, and I do a lot on LinkedIn with that too, so check it out. But my point here is that you can discern it by a simple thing. Here's the short answer to that. Can it be changed? Ask yourself, can it be changed? For example, I don't like AI, the future of AI. I want AI to go away. I want us to just say we're not going to use AI anymore. Well, AI is a hard trend. It's going to continue to get better. You can't stop it. But as humans, we can decide how we're going to use it. We can decide what kind of safety net we want to put around it. We want to take advantage of it and put in some protections as well. That was one of my reasons, one of many reasons why I'm an advisor to the Department of Defense, is I want them to be able to predict problems and pre-solve them so we don't all get into trouble. So I want you to do that too. By the way, let me just answer an earlier question with a simple example about, can a small company profit from this? So about 4 years ago, I started working with a small accounting firm in the Southeast, and they were a good accounting firm, but they were basically in a state and then working with a few states around it. And they got my book, they got into the learning system. They really kind of decided we're going to become anticipatory. And and one of the first things they decided to do, this took them about a month and a half. Remember, this is an accounting firm. They decided, they had small and mid-sized customers. And they said, cybersecurity is going to be an increasing problem. That's a hard trend. And all of the cybersecurity companies are really set up to help big companies, not small companies. And they found a small little startup cyber company, and they bought it. Here's an accounting firm buying a cybersecurity company. It became, in 12 months, the most profitable part of their company. And I just talked to the CEO. He said, thanks for helping us to be anticipatory. We have just been named the fastest growing accounting company in the world. And, and that's just in a couple of years. Well, this does work.
It really does. I mean, I constantly am looking at the future of what's next. And I'm always in that belief. I'm the entrepreneur mindset, right? So I'm like, if I'm not growing, I'm failing, right? So I have that mindset going on all the time. And what we really look at is, when we go to market, is like, we only want to solve two problems. We want to solve a problem, but we want to make it easy and simple. If we can do that, we know we're going to have great growth and things are going to go huge. But in your experience, is this always technology that needs to get involved to make these things happen? Or is it looking at things differently? Or what are the key drivers towards this disruption that you see?
Well, first of all, technology lets us turn the impossible into the possible. So you don't want to ignore that, because there's some things that you could do now that you couldn't have done 2 years ago. By the way, there's some things 2 years from now you can't do now, and they're very predictable. That's why I write about them. That's why I share that information, because if we know it's going to happen before it happens, it gives us an advantage. So you don't want to ignore technology. But remember, we live in a human world. It's about people. It's about mindset. You've probably all heard about legacy technology. That's the old stuff that you have everything running on. Then there's the new technology. And we think the future is either this or that. It's either the old or the new. But one of the things I teach, and I'm going to teach you all right now to better see the future accurately, is the future is not either this or that. It's this and that. So in other words, are we just going to say, we're not using diesel fuel anymore, we're not using gas, we're on this day shifting, everything is going to be green hydrogen or electric, and that's it? No, we're going to have a both and multi-fuel future. Just like I was just talking a few days ago at a keynote speech to 4,000 utilities. And they're looking, a lot of them have coal-fired plants for electricity. And it's like, well, we're just going to have to turn them off. And it's like, well, you're not going to have to just turn them off. You're going to have to make them a little cleaner. But I shared with them a story from in Texas when I was a kid working on a farm. I said, my grandpa told me, it's easier to ride a horse in the direction that it's going. And the horses of change are going to more green and more multi-fuel vehicles. They're not going to all instantly be electric, but don't count that out. For example, I've owned a Tesla Model X. And I mentioned this, even though it's a Model X, that Ford has 150,000 pre-orders of their Lightning E pickup truck, which I bet many of you have pickup trucks. And when you look at the stats, like I said, I've owned a Model X since 2016. And so that was quite a few years ago. And I've had it serviced once, didn't need much because, it's kind of like driving an iPhone around. And I asked the people at Tesla, since it's getting kind of old now, and I'm getting some miles on it, I said, well, should I be getting rid of this thing? I mean, how long is it's a 2016 battery? How much life does this car have? And they said, well, it's aluminum body, so it's not going to rust. So the lifetime on a 2016 is not nearly as good as today. But the lifetime of that vehicle is 1 million miles with that battery. By the way, I know 2 guys with a 2016 Tesla Model X that have over 1 million miles on the original battery. So in other words, whoa, it's wow. And now they're extending the range. So we're going to see more and more of that. But again, we're still going to have diesel, just like we've been shifting in a diesel truck, or, in a big diesels. Of course, in Europe, they're automatic transmissions. But here, it's what are we doing? We're bringing in automatic. Daimler's been doing that, and others are too. And let me give you one more principle I got to teach you, because as you can see, I was put on the planet to teach, not tell. I'm trying to empower all of you out there. So let me give you another one that I don't want us to miss here. And think of it again. First of all, think in terms of both and. I just wanted you to get that. And think of spending 1 hour a week, marking it off in your calendar, plugging into the future. You're going to spend the rest of your life there. Instead of crisis managing, I want you to opportunity manage. So in that 1 hour, I'd like you to ask yourself, what are the hard trends that I know will happen? And what's the opportunity? What can I see? And as you start picking those 3 categories of hard trends I gave you and start outlining it with opportunities, you're going to come up with a list of certainty in an uncertain world. And strategy based on certainty is got low risk and high reward. So I would suggest 1 hour a week. That would serve you all really well. And realize the future, again, it's there for us to shape.
Well, and I'll give the audience another viewpoint that we have. And you touched it earlier, which was the 5G. And like you said, 6G and 7G, they're all coming after. And it's really impacting our repair industry of commercial trucks. And people don't even realize it yet. Because one of the problems we have is these semi-trucks, they have fast computer systems on them. When I'm hardwired with a laptop, I still can't get all my traffic fast enough off the vehicle because there's so much data coming off. We have to filter it. When I use Bluetooth or I use an LTE option, I have to really filter it down to only look at certain little parts of the truck. But now all of a sudden 5G's here. Now 5G's here, I can get a wider view of the truck and all the components and all the values and the sensor readings. And everyone's like, well, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is, well, guess where that data is going? It's going to a cloud. And when you have all your data going to a cloud, guess what you can do? You can get predictive and know before you have failures. And you can know immediately when things break down. You're not reactive. You can get proactive. And if you're proactive, now all of a sudden, who's making the decisions on where the truck goes and what parts are bought and where they're sourced from? That's a call center somewhere. It's not the reactive model. It's proactive. 5G totally changes the game in every business that I work with. So everything that Dan is saying here is 100% on board. You have to think of your business and think of all these impacts that are having, because it does affect you at the end of the day. So if there's business leaders or owners listening to this now and they're like, man, I'm going to retire in 5 years. I'm not worried about this. Forget it. I don't like change. What we have works. It's worked for 30 years. We'll keep working. What do you say to those people?
Well, first of all, I would like you to, instead of kind of slowly slip out the back door, I would like you to create a legacy for yourself. Because right now you could set a foundation for the future of everyone around you. And remember, you don't have to be the owner of a company to be thinking like this. If you've been with a company for a period of time, it becomes kind of your work family, if you know what I mean. And you've got something in this company. And so you put a lot of your time in effort into this company. And by speaking up, by helping to point out opportunities, keep your opportunity antenna up, and by helping to shape a better future for everyone, I think you're going to leave as a hero instead of just kind of coming out the back door. So in other words, you know what? We need you. And if you're older, you have really amazing things. What do you have? You've got knowledge, you've got wisdom. I can't take a seminar on 30 years of experience and walk away with much. But you don't have knowledge of the new technologies. You don't know that as good as the young people. The young people, they don't have all the experience, but they know about technology in ways we don't. We should be working together in new ways and having better conversations internally. So I think there's a way of what I call in my books, ending the unspoken war between the young and the old, and getting them to work together in new, more powerful ways, because you know what? We need each other as we go forward. So I would like us to really focus on transformation versus change quickly. Change always comes from the outside in, forcing us to react, crisis manage, put out fires, and there are going to be things that you can't predict. But instead of saying you can't predict anything and nothing but crisis management, I'd like you to realize, oh, you can predict hundreds and thousands of things once you learn how to look, and that gives you some really good advantage in shaping the future. So I'd like you to be looking at what you can see, what again you can predict, what you can take action on, because there's so much. And when you start looking at it and looking at, I've got new options, I've got new ways of doing things for less cost. Wow, it's powerful. By the way, another little idea. I just talked, I'm working with a company and they've got a contest going and it's working out really great. They've got a contest with cash awards to have their employees point out things that can be automated. Because they said, we've got an IT people and they know how to automate, but they don't know what to automate. And you don't have to figure out how to automate it. We just need to know what to automate. And by the way, I would say if you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, more than 3 or 4 times in a row, that could be automated, freeing you to do something more meaningful. So they had a reward. It's unbelievable. They come up with all these great things they can automate, freeing the humans from doing the most boring jobs, because you're just, oh, I got to do that again. It's to actually creating more value. And I'd like us all to really embrace learning new things. There's an old saying, you can't teach old dogs to learn new tricks. Luckily, we're not dogs. So when you take someone with experience and they learn a few new things and are willing to talk to the young people, whoa, amazing things happen.
Well, I love that. I mean, you're right. Companies can really crowdsource from their own employees and their own customers even. What problems can we solve from you guys? And that's a great point. And I want to just give this to everyone listening too. If you're like, man, I don't know, I'm not sure about this. Here's my challenge to you. Google Daniel Burrus predictions and you will land on a page that talks about some of his predictions he's made, when he's made them, and when they've come true. And not only that, but you've come up with another white paper that has some more future predictions. So I'd love to hear how users can get that. If you can drop us one of them, I'd love for the audience to hear that as well.
Well, yeah, first of all, there is every year I publish the 25 technology-driven hard trends that are shaping the future. And by the way, you should be looking at that. Doesn't cost you anything. If you go to burrus.com, burrus.com, right on that homepage, scroll down one little notch and you'll see a place where you can go and download that list. I think you'll find it's in its 39th year of publication, so it's got a long history of being right. Why don't you take a look? You'll see with your opportunity antenna up. Also, I publish blogs. I've got as I said, you can subscribe to our blogs there. And if you are on LinkedIn, I think I've got 1.3 million followers on LinkedIn right now because I'm giving them a lot of value. Well, that doesn't cost you anything. Follow me on LinkedIn and get in the conversation.
Well, I enjoy following you. I, again, want to thank you for coming on the show and everything. It's been great to learn from you. And I can tell the audience, we spend a lot of time at my company looking at the future, and it's had a dramatic impact on our revenue, our bottom line, our profitability, and the direction our company's going. You have to keep an eye on the future. You have to do these things. Check out his website, follow him on LinkedIn. And by the way, I want to say, you are the one person that's got more followers than me on LinkedIn, so it's always great to talk to someone like that.
Well, let me give everyone something. I've just decided I'm going to give you all something. I didn't tell you about this ahead of time, but I do this for certain groups. So if you would like a hardcover copy of Anticipatory Organization, that's a bestseller, a hardcover copy, I'll send you the hardcover copy free. You got to pay a few bucks for shipping, but I'll just give you the hardcover copy. Go to, instead of Anticipatory Organization, too many words, I made it AO. So go to that's THE, theaobook.com. THEAOBOOK.com, and I'll give you a hardcover copy. So now you got no excuse. You don't even have to buy
it. Well, thank you very much. I'll probably even take you up on that, even though I got the audiobook. I think I'm going to wear the audiobook out. I don't know if you can do that, but I'm going to definitely try. So thank you very much for coming on the show. We're going to call it an episode. So as we always say at Diesel Laptops, it's not diagnostics. It's diagnostics done right. But keep an eye on the future. Look at the hard trends. Look at the soft trends. You can figure it out, and you can put your company in a much better position. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, share. We'd love it all. We'll catch you on the next episode.